Hey, what's going on, Los Angeles? Welcome to the Rams Skinny here on the LAFB network. We are Los Angeles Sports. Everything you need for all LA sports can be found at LAFBnetwork.com. If you're watching the show on our YouTube channel, Rams LAFB, if you haven't already, please hit that like and subscribe button. Certainly helps us out at all. If you're not on our YouTube, it's very easy to find Rams LAFB on audio, Apple, Spotify, Rams Skinny, or LAFBnetwork.com for all your Rams needs. Fun show for you today. We are talking free agent cornerbacks as we continue our kind of free agent series. We are actually less than a month away from free agency owning now. February 15th or February 18th right now as of this recording. Happy birthday, Mom. And free agency opens like March 13th, somewhere around there. So less than a month. So it'll be here before we know it. Got the combine coming up in just, 2 weeks or so. Or less even. So always stuff going on in the NFL world, always stuff with our Rams, and excited to get into all of it. First and foremost, my man, not the myth, but the legend. Skinny T, what's up, brother? How you doing?
My mom's birthday is on the 21st.
Look at that.
Our moms are close in birthday.
Very close. Well, happy birthday to your
happy
mom.
birthday, Mom, as well. Sometimes she listens. She's got questions.
Mine doesn't, so I'm glad yours does.
Yeah. It's hard.
My wife doesn't listen. My mom doesn't listen. I don't got much family listening support. I think my dad listens every now and then, but
it's a tough sell for some people.
I give my wife crap because I don't think she's literally listened to between this show, Salute to Troy, our USC show, back when I did the LA football show, even before that, it was called something else. I don't think she's listened to a single podcast episode of probably over 1,000 recordings. So, but I still love you, babe. I love you.
You don't have to say anything. you could air your grievances right here if you'd like. You'd never know.
Yeah. She supports me in other ways, just not by listening, which is fine.
You should tell her, like, hey, I was talking about you on the pod today. And
I do. I tease it all the time. Like, there's a little tidbit in there, a little secret in there if you want to. Nothing.
That's funny. The first time I met her, I was like, so are you a big football fan? And she was like, oh yeah, huge. And I was like, oh, I see how it goes.
She literally, when we were dating, which, we were dating. So you when you're dating, everyone does like things a little bit different because you're dating, you're trying to impress the person. And so she leaned into like because I lived with 5 dudes. Like we lived in Long Beach in like a house with 5. It was like a bachelor pad. Like Sundays we were going to either Buffalo Wild Wings or we had like 5 TV screens in our house. Like it was football all day on Sundays. And she leaned into it. Like she loved it. She'd come down every time. She'd hang out with us with the boys, drinking beers, drinking whiskey. As soon as I put a ring on it, it was like, I'm never watching football again. Like she like hated it. I think she put up the front just to get that ring. Now she hates it, but hey, it's all good.
Absolutely.
But how are you?
I'm good, man. Originally I was gonna give you some a pat on the back. I started rewatching Home Improvement because it's your favorite show, I think.
Yeah.
And when you first told me that, I kind of laughed but I went back and rewatched some of the episodes recently. It's got a lot of heart. That show's underrated.
So good. It is it's kind of forgotten. Like whenever everyone thinks of like shows of the past, which rightfully so, but everyone kind of brings up Everybody Loves Raymond, Seinfeld, even Cheers, Friends, obviously. But yeah, Home Improvement gets overlooked, and it was like almost a decade-long TV show that was beloved. So, love Home Improvement.
Yeah.
And Tim Allen keeps coming out with random like spin-off shows. Like there's a new one right now that just came out. I can't remember what it's called. I watched the first few. It's kind of funny, but anyway, yeah. I'm glad you put it back on. Home Improvement. Good stuff.
Yeah, so a little pat on the back for you.
I'll take it. Show is always brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag today. No promo code needed. Just head there and tell them the guys at the LA Football Network or the LA Fanbase Network, sent you. All the best money lines, game spreads, every sport you can think of. Obviously, Major League Baseball almost back. Spring training is upon us. Shohei Ohtani throwing his second bullpen session today. So that's exciting. We can bet on all the Dodger games. Lakers are almost back from the All-Star break. The Kings are going to be back soon with the Four Nations Championship on Thursday. Have you watched some of this Four Nations? I mean, it's been incredible.
I tuned in for the USA Canada for a short bit when I was able to do that. Caught the melee at the beginning.
Incredible.
We were talking on our weekly call about it. You can't boo. I know there's been some political stuff said about Canada on our side of the border, but you can't boo somebody's national anthem. Come on. You're a classy country. You're a nice country, Canada.
I love
Come
Canada.
on.
I know. Of all countries to do that, I did not expect Canadians to do it.
Well, I'll say this: if you want to get Canadians riled up, hockey is where it starts. You know, yes. I mean, so we'll give you that. Sorry about that, but sorry about that, Canada.
Hoot and a boot, and just had to mess around and win a hockey game. But it was a great game. And now the rematch Thursday, USA Canada. Can't wait. 5 p.m. All you can bet on that game at BetOnline today. Jay, I know I will. Won some money last week taking the Americans, and hopefully they can seal the deal this Thursday. And it's been so fun, that tournament. I mean, it's incredible. Like, it's just the passion behind it. And I love that it's like on the same weekend as NBA All-Star. And it's like, finally the NHL is like in the spotlight. Everyone's like, man, this crappy NBA product. And look how amazing this hockey product is. I'm like, yes, finally hockey rises from the ashes and shows how great of a sport it is. So everyone tune in on Thursday. It's going to be great.
I mean, people want to love the NBA. The NBA is just so bad at what it does. Like, you compare it to the NFL, which is the pinnacle, obviously, of sports marketing. Like, the NBA draft, when is that even?
Dude, it's a great point. Like, people want to love the NBA. And it's like they're dying to love it. And then you just watch it. It's just like, I can't watch NBA games. It's the foul calls, and it's just, I just can't watch it. It's brutal. But anyway, enough of that. Bet online today, G. Do your betting there. Tell them the guys at the LAFB Network sent you. Rams. Okay, so we're getting into quarterbacks. But first, I know we've been talking a lot quarterbacks, not cornerbacks, which we'll get to. But I know we've talked Matt Stafford and quarterbacks quite a bit since the offseason started. But that is the face of the franchise, and that is the hot storyline in the NFL. And again, it is starting to feel more and more likely that Stafford will be gone, which is just crazy to think about. Now, it's not done, and based on reporting, which we're going to talk about with Adam Schefter, the still number one priority is getting a deal done and Stafford staying in LA, retiring a Ram. But if the sides aren't close, which it doesn't seem like they currently really are, obviously there's other options on the table. And Schefter this morning talked about, which we talked about just last week, about Aaron Rodgers and the idea of him coming to LA if the Rams did trade Stafford. And Schefter basically said, Rodgers, I don't know if this was a report or just an assumption, but Schefter said it. He said Rodgers would be, paraphrasing, Rodgers would be thrilled to come to LA and play in the Rams. Your thoughts on Schefter putting more smoke in the air about Rodgers to LA?
Yeah, there's a lot of things I'm taking away from this. Primarily the first one is last season, these discussions were happening. Some people have said up to 6 months. Stafford and the Rams are going back and forth trying to get it. And none of that came out until days before training camp because there was a holdout that was in play for that. And that's when that came out. But all of this dirty laundry is out for everybody to see. And obviously there's the Stafford camp that's doing its share of throwing fuel on that fire. But I think it's coming out of the Rams camp too, which, the poker face is never good with the Rams brass. But this seems like deliberate. This seems like there's more where they're letting everybody see the smoke and the fire this time. And our good buddy over at Sportsnot, Matt Johnson, he kind of put it in an interesting way of the Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, where the Packers just kind of got sick and tired of Favre dragging it out and, demanding more years, more money, and whatnot. And that's always, go ahead.
Not to cut you off, but just on that line, you could even look at the Patriots and Tom Brady, right?
Sure. Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, there's that portion of it. And I think Stafford was holding out last year because he wanted more years added to it, some security there. And I just don't think they're willing to give it. Yeah. And I think to contrast where Stafford believes he's got more playing time in him. And I think Aaron Rodgers knows he's got one. I think he knows he's got 1 year left in him. So that's, a lot of people will throw out the question, why would you go from one aging quarterback, with injury history to another aging quarterback with injury history, which is valid. And the reason is because Rodgers knows he's got 1 year and he's going to take 1 year.
Yeah. Well, and I think, the Rams, obviously, Aaron Donald's going to go down as one of the greatest Rams ever. And there's no bad blood or anything there at all. So no one take that from it. But I think the fact that they're having cap issues because of Donald's retirement, because obviously a huge chunk of his salary is still against the cap, even though he's now going to be retired for going into the second year. They don't want that to happen with Stafford, whereas Stafford's asking for a 3-year deal with more guaranteed. And then after this year, he does decide to retire, which, no one can see into the future. And then they're on the hook for all this like cap money. And again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know how all these contracts work and cap and how you can get out of that. I'm sure there are ways, but obviously they didn't with Donald. Part of that I think was to do right by him, but part of that also was, I'm sure, in the contract is that's just how NFL contracts work. So from their side, and I'm not necessarily defending the Rams because, it's two to tango, but from their side, I'm sure they're saying like, we can't have 2 retired players that are just like hurting us cap wise. Like we can't do that. So either do a 1-year deal, we'll pay you it fully guaranteed. And then, we'll figure out next year, or we need to do, not guaranteed in the future. So if you do decide to retire or whatever, or have these conversations again, it doesn't keep dragging on, or we're just going to move on. So it's interesting that it's got to that point, but I'm sure that Donald piece might have a little something to do with it. And like you said, again, Rodgers is a whole nother ether of conversation, but just in terms of play on the field, as weird as it is, like, it wouldn't be like a drop off. I mean, Rodgers statistically was better than Stafford this year with a terrible Jets team. So as bizarre as it is, and he might even kind of fit in this Rams. I'm not saying, Stafford won a Super Bowl here, so it's not like Stafford doesn't fit, but he might fit in this Rams system really well as well. And then that gives them, this opportunity, this draft, either draft the quarterback this year or whatever draft compensation they get for Stafford, like we talked about extensively last episode, they can use that next year to move up and get, a stronger quarterback class. So, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, Skinny, we were like, you know what, it's going to be weird, but I think they're ultimately getting done. Do you still feel that way, or are you starting to lean more towards Stafford's gone?
I think the ball is in Stafford's court at this point. I think they probably have a pretty fair offer on the table, and I think he just wants more years. And unless he's willing to back down from that this time, that's the breaking point. I don't think they should offer him more than a 1-year contract, period, hands down. I just don't. I don't see why you would do that at this point in the guy's career. So. I think the door is now more wide open, and if that makes sense, I'm hedging because I think the deal could get done. But is he making phone calls? Is his agent making phone calls to other teams and seeing what, what will the Steelers offer him? Is he out there shopping? Can they do that? Are they allowed to just go shop and without permission? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that falls in line with tampering. I don't think so because the new league year hasn't even started, but I don't really know.
Yeah. So, it's going to be fascinating. I can guarantee that. And it's feeling more and more like going back to what I said at the beginning, which is, the Rams kind of allowing this dirty laundry to be aired. I think that's kind of indicative of where things are moving, if that makes sense. That I think that their willingness to they often try to keep, we'll work through these things. We're having those conversations internally. We'll let you guys know how things are. And now there's all this dirty laundry, which says to me, there's a line in the sand from the Rams to the Stafford camp. This is as far as we're going to go. And that's why there's all of this from the Stafford side of things, why his wife seems to be really upset.
Yeah. Well, and last point on that, and then we'll move to cornerbacks is, this, in reality, this can't drag for very long. I think in reality, this is going to need to get, March 12th, March 12th is when the free agency period starts, or the tampering period starts. And you figure if Rodgers is going to be a free agent, if Russell Wilson ends up being a free agent, if Kirk Cousins is a free agent, or whether he's a trade candidate, if there's one other, obviously
Sam Darnold.
And then I'm forgetting one. There's one other older quarterback that could be. But anyway, those are like the big ones. If those guys are going to be free agents or available, like the Rams can't sit on their hands and just hope things get fixed with Stafford, because other teams are going to go after those other quarterbacks. And if it doesn't work out with Stafford, then they're stuck with Jimmy Garoppolo as their quarterback heading into 2025.
Well, he's a free agent, so even that.
Yeah, probably just less demand, I'm saying. Whereas, I mean, as the age of Rodgers, Cousins, Russ, all these guys, like quarterback needy teams are still going to be going after them.
Well, and Jordan Rodriguez reported just a couple of days ago, maybe even yesterday, that they really like what Jimmy Garoppolo brought to the table.
Yeah. That could be a reality.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, let's leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it seems like we'll probably be talking quarterbacks almost every episode, so I'm sure we'll have more Jimmy G talk in the future. But we'll see. It really is going to be fascinating. But I expect maybe not a deal to be officially done, but to at least have some clarity by March 12th that, like, all right, we're close enough that it's going to happen. And so Rams are moving forward with Stafford, or he is officially trade bait at the beginning of free agency, so then they can decide if they want to go after Rodgers or one of the other guys mentioned.
Wow.
Crazy.
Who would have thought, man?
Not us.
The Rams would have been not
well,
us.
I guess technically us. We talked Stafford trade all season where everyone would look down on us for that, and now it's looking like reality. So,
yeah.
But so we'll see. Hey, what's going on, family? Got to quickly tell you about our friends over at Underdog Fantasy, new sponsor and friend of the show. One of the most fun games out there, fantasy games you can do in the industry today. Super easy to do. Go to the App Store or go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Download today. Use our promo code LAFB, or you can just click the link in the description wherever you are watching. That promo code is going to give the new user that you have just become a free pick, one free pick, and up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's free money. Up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Why would you not want to do that for a simple deposit? Just make sure to use that promo code LAFB or click the link below. The game is super easy. It's super fun. Pick 2 to 8 players in a game. Go ahead and go with the higher or lower, whether they're going to have more passing yards, touchdowns, receiving yards, rushing yards, any of that. It's a lot of fun. And just choose higher or lower. That's easy with the opportunity to win. So, go to Underdog Fantasy today. Promo code LAFB gets you a free entry and up to a $1,000 bonus cash. All right, let's talk cornerbacks. So the Rams, actually, this is a position I think, obviously, you want to improve every position, and I think this is a position that they can improve, but only one pending free agent, Akhello Witherspoon. So it's not necessarily a huge need to go out and sign a bunch of guys like receivers we talked about last episodes, where they're only going to have 3 returning receivers, so they kind of have to. At corner, they're actually pretty set in terms of numbers. Now, are there guys that could replace others? They could end up waiving someone. Obviously, you have guys returning from injury and kind of how they fit moving forward. But it's not a huge need as of right now. However, this is a deep free agency corner class, and so there are definitely options of guys that could get. So let me ask you this first before we get into some names. Like, do you think the Rams will be buyers? Can't really be sellers in free agency because you're not like trading corners, but would you think they'll be buyers in free agency, or kind of just hold pat and add someone else in the draft like they did last year?
They're definitely going to draft. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Are they going to use one of their high draft picks on it? I doubt seeing that happen. You look at the depth chart, and while a lot of people are coming back, I think there are opportunities to upgrade. You've got Quentin Lake, 1 year left on his rookie deal. Same for Cobie Durant and Derion Kendrick. So This could be last year's for all of those guys. Some of those guys, definitely some of them for sure. So I think that, from a long-term perspective, you look at what they did last year with bringing in Cam Curl. I could see that kind of a deal where there's kind of a guy flying under the radar.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that, losing a guy like Akhello Witherspoon, who they ended up relying on a whole bunch, which was not ideal. I mean, the dude made some plays. He's an NFL player. I'm not going to take that away from him, but he's at the end of his career, I think. You know, and then you look at guys like Quentin Lake and Cobie Durant, Derion Kendrick. You know, there's a reason they brought in Akhello Witherspoon. There's a reason that they tried Tre'Davious White. You know, Quentin Lake played a lot of nickelback this year. So there's definitely room for improvement. And I think where this defense is trending, you know, putting in like a shutdown corner or something like that, you know, just improving on this roster. I think this defense could be, you know, we're talking top 5 defense with a couple of additional pieces. We talked about linebacker as a big improvement area. I think, you know, dropping one guy into this, you know, one proven veteran into this, I think that's really, that would be really great, you know, and in terms, you know, we always talk about how much they did not invest in the defense. This is an opportunity. They have an opportunity to balance that out by paying a dude. I think there's definitely room for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're going to get to, we talked linebackers already. We're going to get to the defensive line in this series here probably next week. And so I'm just teasing that because I think defensive line is they don't really need to, like, other than they might add someone for depth, but they're not going to spend much because, I mean, they're set. I mean, obviously we saw how dominant that defensive line can be and how young it is. So don't have to allocate a lot of money there. The question is, are they going to allocate a lot of money to linebacker? And by a lot, I mean like one good signing at linebacker or at corner. It'd be hard to see them maybe doing both. Again, depending on what happens with Stafford. If they end up trading Stafford and Kupp and all of a sudden have like $70 million in cap space, then, you know, this totally changes things. But as it stands right now, they're what, about 30 million in cap space right now? I think so. And then once they trade Kupp, that'll obviously change, you know, whether it's a trade or a cut designation or whatever. But so as it stands, you know, they're going to have to allocate, kind of pick one. Are we going to pay a under the radar guy like you said? Are we going to go after one whale at corner? Do we want to go after one whale at linebacker and kind of keep our core at corner and then just draft and think we're good there? And Aubrey Pleasant can develop these guys and continue the success there. That'll be really the question. Obviously, we won't have true answers until this Kupp and Stafford stuff is finished, so we know what kind of cap space this team has and what direction they can go. Now,
I was saying that's another good point about getting the deal done with Stafford before free agency to know what they're working with, just from a monetary perspective.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's so important that there's clarity there, whether it's done or not, but at least clarity of what the path forward is, because that dictates what you're going to do in free agency. Like the Donald thing was sprung, but it happened like the day of free agency, his retirement?
A couple of days before, I feel like.
It was right. Yeah, it was like the week of. And they said they knew a little bit more before that. But obviously that happened with intent, because then they knew kind of going forward. Like if he didn't tell them and then retired like after free agency before the draft or even after the draft, it's like, well, that, you know, really changes things. So that's why it's so important. But all that being said, looking at this corner class, you know, we'll just kind of go back and forth like we've done on these few. Like, who are some names that intrigue you? Not necessarily that they're going to sign, but just some names that intrigue you. I'll start with you, just one name.
I think that my top guy right now is Asante Samuel Jr. from the Los Angeles Chargers. I think he's shown some really impressive stuff, especially going through a couple of years under Brandon Staley, where that defense was not playing very well. He was kind of a shining star on that. Young, just coming off of his rookie contract. PFF has him as their 5th best cornerback in this free agent class. So I'm looking directly at that guy, and I think he spent most of the year on the bench this year with an injury. So I think that maybe he's flying under the radar a bit. That doesn't happen necessarily in the NFL, but he's not. There are several guys over him. You know, Travarius Ward. You know, guy from New York, DJ Reed. You know, Rasul Douglas. You know, Carlton Davis.
Yeah.
These are all going to be names that are going to go before Asante Samuel. So that's kind of where my nose goes first.
Yeah, it's a really good one. And I think he would be a good fit. Like you said, young. He's a little bit of a smaller corner, but plays a little bigger than his size. Obviously, you know, great lineage, his dad, Asante Samuel, and he had a great college career at Florida State. And yeah, has shown some good thing with the Chargers. The concern at all would be which would benefit the Rams contractually is that he had a really kind of strange injury this year, which is why he missed so much time. It was basically like a stinger that kept popping up, and so he just could not get back on the field. It wasn't like necessarily a break. It was more of a
nerve issue or something like that.
Nerve issue, exactly. Which those, not that an injury is good, but those are ones that like how. Like, does it ever go away? Like, is he going to be better? And so that's the one concern is what his level of play or what his availability will be. And obviously they'll do, full tests and physicals and stuff to do that. But that would be my one concern. But in terms of what he did prior to that on the field, his age, his lineage, I think that'd be great. He'd fit right in with this Rams system. So I'd like that. I think that'd be a good one. So I'm going to stick with the Chargers, actually, when I throw out a name. Also, only 26 years old. Flew under the radar last year, signed with the Chargers this year, and kind of exploded onto the scene. Just had a 1-year deal. Unfortunately, got injured at the very end of the year, so another injury concern you got to look at. I don't think it's anything long-term, but Elijah Molden is a guy that probably could go cheap again. I think he probably raised his stock this year based on how well he played. However, because he got injured, that maybe knocks it down a bit, and it was only a 1-year deal. So I don't think he'd be something that would cost the Rams, would break the bank. But I mean, we watch Charger games, obviously covering them here at the LAFB network, and Molden was like a bright spot of that defense. It was littered with injuries in the secondary. The Chargers were absolutely decimated in the secondary, and Molden ended up being kind of the outside of Derwin James, the star of that secondary. So I think it's a guy that could definitely adapt and come in. And if he can have any of that juice that he had in 2024, could be a nice bright spot for this Rams. And honestly, I don't know what the going rate would be for him. Let's see. What did the Chargers pay him this last year? They paid him.
I think he was on the last year of his rookie deal and he was traded from Tennessee.
You're right. Yes, that is absolutely correct. So he was, making like 840,000 or whatever, or no, 1.2 million last year. So I don't know what kind of, if he played over that or if it'll be more of the same in that kind of $1 to $3 million deal. I mean, with that price, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, they might have a hard time negotiating with the Chargers on that one. I think there's going to be a bidding war because, I mean, he really unlocked that defense in a fun way. You mentioned Derwin James, and Molden's presence there allowed Derwin James to move around like that chess piece where play him a lot on the line of scrimmage in the box. As nickel corner, as a deep safety as well. And Molden allowed him to do that. Now, a versatile defensive back like that for the Rams is just catnip. They love players like that. Quentin Lake's a perfect example. But you get a guy like in there, like Cam Curl in there, and add Molden to that mix, and then you've got this really great blend between Quentin Lake, Curl, Molden. I mean, that's just beautiful right there. It gives me goosebumps thinking about the defense like that. And, we, in our linebackers episode, we teased a guy like Isaiah Simmons. That's who it was, right?
Yeah.
Simmons. Yeah. That could be kind of a Derwin James-ish player. You add that fourth piece into that. Oh man.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Chargers are going to go hard for him. I think they're going to make him a good offer. So they'll be the big bidding war there.
I mean, they'd be silly to let him go. He broke out with them and fit so well in that system, like with those players. So
broken leg was his injury. So, unlike Asante Samuel, much more straightforward.
Yeah, exactly. Just, he'll be ready to go by training camp. So, if the Rams can get him, I think that's a home run. But I agree. I think the Chargers are going to be the team to beat there. I think they're going to do everything they can to keep him or even re-sign him before free agency actually begins, extend him. So might be moot. He might not even be available. But the other guy, no, you go ahead. Yeah, you're up now. Molden was my guy.
I think, this is an experimental one. This is one that has a lot of people scratching their heads. That's Jeff Okudah, former first round, third overall pick.
Yeah.
What happened with him? He was with Aubrey Pleasant in Detroit after they drafted him. And there's a famous clip of Aubrey Pleasant just bawling him out on the sidelines.
That's right.
So maybe Aubrey Pleasant wouldn't be signing off on this one, but nobody's really going to be going after him. So I think, is this a reclamation project? They brought on Emmanuel Forbes, kind of, similar situation, good draft pick, but never really panned out for Washington. Mm-hmm. So is this a guy that they want to like get in the building and see what they can get out of him? Because, like we said, they've got a lot of options, and can they find a place for this guy to fit? Obviously he's got the quintessential body type. He's got, he showed something, for the Lions to go after him that early. So, definitely a reclamation project. Might not work out, but they're kind of in that realm right now where they're trying out, Tre'Davious White. They're bringing Akhello Witherspoon. They're bringing John Johnson back into the mix. So, there's worse signings. They definitely get panned. I think that a lot of people would be like, "What is this? Why are they doing this?" But I think for a good small short-term deal, see if he's got anything. We love talking about the Rams in terms of this soft landing spot. Good place for guys to revitalize their career. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, really, really similar to when we talked about Isaiah Simmons in the linebacker one, like a guy that obviously high draft profile, 3rd overall, great college career at Ohio State, and was seen as a home run pick. I mean, when he was picked 3rd by the Lions, it wasn't like a head scratcher. It was like, yeah, he's a top 10 player, and rightfully so. And it just has never panned out in the league, whether that's situation, whether that's his own doing or merit, whatever it may be. But at 26 years old, I think he's still only 26. And a guy that obviously has that background of talent, why not take a shot if you can get him for super cheap and give it a shot? It's similar to like, a Sam Darnold last year, right? That when put in the right situation, all of a sudden you see like, oh, Sam Darnold can be a good quarterback when he has the right coach and the right system and the right culture. Not saying Okudah can be that, but at his age still, there's a potential. I mean, he was drafted so high, again, who knows all the background stuff, but yeah, if you can get this guy for super cheap, like why not take a flyer on it? So I think that'd be a great one. So the last one I'll end with for me, and this will be a more expensive one, but out of like kind of the big names of Carlton Davis, Javarius Ward, who, Ward has said himself, it might be tough for him to even stay in California. So that might not even be an option, but DJ Reed, Russell Douglas, guys like you mentioned. The name that intrigues me the most is 27-year-old Byron Murphy. Out of Minnesota. I think he had a really good season with the Vikings, and obviously there's some familiarity there, not in terms of defensive system, but just in terms of Vikings and Rams and kind of how they have constructed things and whatnot with Kevin O'Connell being there. So, I think Byron Murphy could be a guy that it's going to cost more. That would be their expensive defensive piece. It would basically mean they'll neglect spending big at linebacker and they would spend big at that one corner piece. And not saying he is Jalen Ramsey, but he would be like that Jalen Ramsey cost, if you will, that could kind of be around the back end and the rest would all kind of funnel around that. But 27 years old, coming off a really good year. I do like the potential of what Murphy could do.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I love it that the idea that they're going to bring on like a more expensive, piece on this defense. You look at the Rams defensive advanced metrics, and it's like it's head scratching because the eye test, it was like they were in the backfield constantly. They were, tons of pressure, but getting beat, and that was, it was on the secondary, it was on the defensive front as well, and the linebackers. They play as a whole team, but they haven't really invested in the position lately. It's been a little bit. It might be time. It might be time to pull the trigger on that. And I think Byron Murphy is probably the best of those high end signings just because of his age. They could, put him on a similar track. Put him on like a 3-year deal so that once we find out what Kobie Turner is going to be like, what some of the edge rushers and the rest of that defensive line, it's all timed out just right. I think that's a great plan.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be a home run, I think. And I think the last time they spent big was really Jalen Ramsey when they re-signed him after trading for him. And, they obviously signed Darius Williams last year and Cam Curl's a safety, but got him last year. But those weren't like big spending contracts. Those are those Elijah molded type contracts, if you will, or even maybe a little bit more than him, but in that range. So any final names you want to throw out before we wrap this episode up?
Nate Hobbs has always been intriguing to me.
Okay.
I love trashing on the Raiders, not because it's a personal thing, but I think getting guys out of there and testing them out and seeing what they can do as well. That was probably the only one that came out. I mean, there's a lot of old guys. There's a lot of good names. I mean, Stephon Gilmore, he had a really good year with the Cowboys a couple years ago. Struggled in that NFC North, which, at 34 years old, I think that makes sense. But I'm kind of grasping at straws for those guys, though.
Yeah. I mean, last name I'll throw, and I say it, I feel like he's been a free agent every single year the last 3 years, is Adoree Jackson, going to be a free agent again. So he's 30 now, on the other side of 30, which is never great for corners, but another cheap vet option that bring him back to LA, baby. Trojan great.
There we go.
So, all right. Well, with that, let us know what you guys think. Who are some corners you want to see? Again, we'll see who actually hits the free agent market and who gets re-signed. But I think the Rams are good at corner. Just need maybe one more piece, whether they go and get a star and spend big, or go and get kind of that middle to lower tier as more of a depth guy that can maybe overshadow what his contract is. It'll be interesting to see. So let us know. Comment below if you're on YouTube. You can hit us up on Twitter at Ryan Dart LAFB, at RL Anderson LAFB, or at LAFB Network. Always on LAFBnetwork.com. You can comment right on the post there. And then, make sure to hit that like and subscribe on the Rams LAFB YouTube channel. Big thanks to BetOnline. Big thanks to Underdog Fantasy. Big thanks to you, Skinny T. And as always, big thanks to you, the listener, because we could not do this without you. Everyone have a fantastic weekend. We'll be back on Monday with more free agency talk, and we'll see if there's new developments on this quarterback situation, because that seems to be something new every single day to talk about. Everyone, take care. Be well. Talk to y'all soon.